Welcome back. We just want to say one thing. Rejection sucks. We all hate it, especially when we're trying to buy our home or maybe even our first home. So we're joined here with Josh today. We want to talk about how do you avoid a failed mortgage application or an approval, and how to make sure that you don't do all the work in finding a new home and then get to the very end of it and find out you can't actually buy it. Josh, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. And so, Jay, today what I want to do is I want to share a story of a real couple that I was working with a number of years ago. Jenny and Kevin is what we're going to call them. Obviously, that's not their real names, but this is their real story. See, what happened is Jenny had been in Canada for about 3-4 years. She'd been working in Fort McMurray, up in the oil sand sites, working in like food services or something for the camps. Kevin was newer. He'd arrived only about 10 months earlier when I met them. They were referred to me by their realtor, not you, Jay, but their realtor texted me and says, "Hey, Josh, what's your best rate right now?" And turns out I had a better rate than the pre-approval that Jenny had already gotten. So the next morning, Jenny gave me a call so we could do her application and get her a mortgage that had a better rate than what she had already been offered by her bank. And you know what? When I was talking to her, she mentioned that she'd been pre-approved at 3 different lenders: BMO, ATB, and RBC. She talked to all of them, and she had a rate hold and a pre-approval from, I think, all 3 of them. And it turns out that she wasn't able to actually get an approval through me at that point or through any of those 3 banks. Like, that's horrible.
That sounds incredible. So you're telling me she's talked to 3 different lenders and told them,
Yeah.
I'm guessing, the same thing, and they all told her the same thing, and the truth is that they actually couldn't help her?
That's actually exactly what happened. And I think I
Incredible.
figured out where it went wrong at those 3 lenders. You see, whenever we're looking at a mortgage approval, it really comes down to 3 things. I have like a stool here, 3 legs, right? Take one of those legs away, the whole thing tumbles over and it's not going to do anything. Those 3 things are your income, your credit, and the down payment. And for Jenny and Kevin, well, yes, her husband was really new to the country. We had enough down payment. They had 10% down. And that actually makes it pretty easy, even with new to Canada. They had adequate credit established. We could use that new to Canada program to make it work. So neither of those was the issue. The problem in their case was income. Jenny had been making over $100,000 each of the previous years, working in food services at an oil sand site up in Fort McMurray, commuting back and forth. But for this year, her husband had arrived in January. She had switched employers, still doing the same thing, but she had switched employers and now wasn't making as much money or wasn't working as much overtime. And when I talked to them in October, she'd only made like $45,000 so far in the year. Nowhere near on track to hit $100,000 by the end of December, right? She only had a couple months left. Her husband, he's an accountant in the Philippines, but he was working in fast food at a mall in a food court and not even anywhere near full-time hours. It was like between 15 and 22 hours. So not any income that we could actually use to qualify. And so what I did is I was digging in. I asked the questions: how much have you made this year? What's your husband doing for work? And I realized and recognized that the income was going to be a big problem. And like I said, she didn't get approved at any of the other 3, even though they did that pre-approval. They never bothered to dig in and find out if they could actually verify the information. They probably just asked her what her historical income was. She told them and assumed that that was enough. So when we're doing a pre-approval, if you want to go in and buy a home with that confidence, Jay, and you know how important it is to have a good, solid pre-approval. If you want to go in and make an offer on a home with that confidence, we have to check your credit. We've got to look at the down payment documents. In their case, looking at the income documents would have gone a long way, right? Once we've looked at all of those and we know that they're rock solid, there's almost no reason that a pre-approval is going to fall apart. And so you can actually go in, buy a house with confidence and know that you're going to get it.
So that's incredible. So what I've heard you say is just to make sure that when we're doing a pre-approval, make sure we have all the documents, ensure that they've actually been reviewed correctly, the right the right data has been put in, and then your pre-approval will be based on relevant data. I think one other big thing really is make sure that, just sort of triggered my thought when you're talking here, is make sure that from the time you get pre-approved to when you close, nothing changes. Make sure you don't have any bigger bills. You
Also
don't buy anything
so
new.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so important
great.
that nothing changes. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So thanks for that help here today, Josh. Of course, you can reach us. There's some information in the screen below here. My number's on the screen. If you'd like to call or text me, please feel free to. We do these videos weekly. Please like, please subscribe, please follow along. We hope you find this information relevant, and we can't wait to catch up with you again next week.